everyone, and welcome. My name is Krisha Young. I am the Sabotage Slayer and Delicious Lifestyle Coach, and I am here with one of my clients, Ayla Azad, and I am so excited that she is here today to share her story and her journey of working with me and being part of the Delicious Life movement. Hello, hello.
Hello.
How are you?
I am great. I'm happy to be here with you, Krisha.
Great, great. So why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, all that kind of fun stuff.
Okay, so I am a chiropractor. I practice in Ajax, Ontario. I've been a chiropractor for a long, long time. I'm also a mom and a wife. Yeah, that's really my story. I teach, I do all sorts of things, but I know I'm here today to talk to you about what we went through together and how we did it. So
yeah, no, I'm really, really excited to hear your version of it because, I've seen from the outside, but I love to hear how this impacted you. So why don't we start with what life looked like for you before we started working together? What were you feeling and thinking about yourself, food, your body, your career, your relationships, all of that kind of stuff? Like, what was going through your head before we started working together?
I think I was your typical, woman. I had been on every single diet, any fad that rolled into town. I had done it, the South Beach diet and Weight Watchers. And I've struggled with my weight for a long time. Ever since I was a kid, I remember having issues. My sister was always the tall, skinny one, and I always had the weight issue. And my parents would always, there would always be comments at the table. Are you sure you want to eat another helping, Ayla? Or, is that really necessary? I remember being 10 or 11 years old and my mother forcing me to do the Jane Fonda workout, those videos with the Jane Fonda workouts, and I absolutely loathed them. I actually love Jane Fonda. I think she's amazing.
Yeah,
I just
cool.
did not like those workouts she is really cool. I really like her today. But when I was 11, the Jane Fonda workouts were just awful. I hated them. So I think I always grew up with that issue, that I wasn't good enough. My weight was always going to be a barrier for me. There was a lot of cultural stuff that came along with that. So, but I think we're resilient as humans, and I think we figure out what's going to work for us and how we're going to figure life out. So once I left home and I started my studies, that helped me a lot, right? Because I finally had something that was my own and really enjoyed my studies. And interestingly, I'm a chiropractor, so I'm in healthcare, and so I was surrounded by healthy people and people who exercised and looked amazing and took care of themselves. And I was always that odd one out because I just could never just figure out how to incorporate it all in it's always just seemed like such a big project, like a big struggle, that how am I going to, I've got 20,000 things to do. I've got 5 exams that I need to take. And I have to think about, and even before kids, it was a struggle for me, how am I going to fit all of this in? And then I would go, no, and this is the year, those New Year resolutions. I'm going to start my diet. I'm going to join. I don't know how many gyms I joined, and it just nothing ever worked. I would start strong, and within a few weeks, I would crash. And then I'd hate myself even more, like, you're such a failure. You can't even do that. And it was really funny. I'm a huge fan of Oprah Winfrey, and she was being interviewed once, and it really resonated with me because the interviewer asked her, do you have any regrets of your life? If today was it, if this was your last day, what do you have any regrets? And she said, my one big regret is that I never figured out the weight issue. That I never figured it out for myself. And I thought, that's me. I've just never, as much as I know about the body and health, and here I am talking to patients about it, I just could never figure it out for myself. And so I before meeting you and going on this journey, I think I was your typical person, struggling through with it, trying to juggle a whole bunch of stuff, beating yourself up every time you failed. That was a big one. And just being miserable about it, having great successes in other aspects of my life, great successes. And then looking at this aspect and going, oh, this sucks. Why am I not able to figure this out? I run a business. I'm a doctor. I've got all this positive stuff. I teach. I'm successful. I have a beautiful family, and I can't figure this part out of my life. So I think that's where I was when we finally decided to work together.
Yeah. And this being like what specifically? Like losing the weight and
well, at that time, I would say yes. Yeah, no, at that time, before speaking with you and doing all this work, I would have said, yeah, it's just the weight. If I could just lose the weight, then all would be perfect. If I lost, 30 pounds, then all would be great. Yeah. Of course, today, after our work together, I don't believe that it's at all the weight. Yeah. I don't think it's about the weight for a second. I think that's a symptom. Mm-hmm. But cause is so much more than just 20 pounds or 30 pounds, right?
No, exactly. But I like that you said that because, even for me, when I first started this journey, it was just the weight. Like I had all the other issues, but they were like, my migraines were being treated with medicine and my IBS was being treated with medicine. I didn't know that there were other ways to treat this stuff or other causes for it. And for me, it was literally like, I just don't want to be fat anymore. Like, show me what to do. And then, so for you and for a lot of women, it's the same thing. It's like, I just don't want to feel this way anymore. I don't want to, have this, I want to be able to wear sexy clothes again. I want to feel good in my body again. And I don't want to feel like crap anymore. And yeah.
Yeah, for me, there was a very pivotal moment, and I remember discussing this with you, where I was at a wedding, and they took a photograph, a picture, and then a few weeks later, the groom, who I knew, sent me a thank you card and said, thank you for coming to our wedding. We really appreciate it. And he they had put that picture that they had taken of me with the table that I was at, right?
Yeah.
And I remember looking at that picture going, who is that? Mm-hmm. Who is that? That's not me. And so there was this real disconnect between how I felt inside and what I saw. Like when I would look in the mirror, and go, this is not the person that I feel I am. And it was really weird. Like I would, if I'm walking somewhere and I'd walk past a mirror, sometimes I would, like, who is that? That's not how I feel. And so it's a really awful, awkward feeling to have that. But I still have that photograph and I look at it sometimes and I'm like, wow, who was that? That was not who I am. So that was a moment.
Yeah, I remember you talking about that. And I also remember one day when we were discussing when we finally, after a few months, started talking about the food and started actually tackling the weight and that kind of stuff. But prior to that, we talked about a whole bunch of other stuff to help reprogram some of the patterns and beliefs and things like that. And then I remember when it came down to like, okay, now we're ready to talk about the food. Now we're ready to talk about, the actual weight loss portion of our time together. You were like, I hate dieting. Like it was this visceral, like, do not make me diet. I hate it. And I remember that like clear as a day. And I thought, yeah, I know. I hate it too. And I hated that as well. And do you want to share a little bit more about your reaction there with it? Do you remember that?
Well, because to me, that was associated directly with feeling like garbage. The only time I would diet was when I felt like shit. And so I just didn't want that same awful, nauseating feeling that, depriving myself, and you know, and it just doesn't, you know, when you're on a diet, it just becomes so much a part of your story. You know, you walk around and people are like, hey, do you want you know, oh look, I have Timbits, would you like a Timbit? Oh no, I'm on a diet.
Right.
You know, or right, you're walking around, you go to a restaurant, you know, and you want to order, you know, the chicken wings or whatever, and or you want the steak with the mashed potatoes, and you're like, you know, is it possible to get veggies with the steak, because I'm on a diet? Like, it just becomes like such a
Like a
thing, you know,
label.
that's my story, and I'm going to play the victim, and I'm just going to walk around being on a diet, and woe is me, right? And I was just so tired of that, because I, you know, with especially when in family gatherings, right? That was like my badge of honor. I'd walk in and I'd be like, I'm on a diet, you know, so I'm not going to eat all the delicious food that the family has created, you know. And then I would get the, you know, oh good, Ayla, you know, we're really glad that you're on a diet, you know. So now they're affirming that, oh well, you look like crap and you're fat, and so glad that you're finally on a diet, maybe now you'll be worthy, right? And so it just becomes, so I hate that word. And even now, like, I'm not on a diet, and I never will be ever again. I eat to nourish my body, and I eat because I enjoy it, and you know, and I make good choices, and I make good decisions, and sometimes I don't, and you
And
know,
that's okay.
I have a pizza with my kids, and that's fine, you know.
And
so I just, yeah, the word diet just makes me feel angry, right? Because it was from that time when I wasn't in the right space, right?
Yeah, and the thing that bothers me the most about this is, like, the word diet actually means way of life. It's not a nasty thing.
Yeah.
It's just been turned into a
Yeah.
nasty thing.
Mm-hmm.
All right, cool. So we're gonna get into a little bit more about, like, your journey. But first, let me ask you, what hesitations did you have before signing up to work with me? So we're on the call and we're talking about this. You, like, you know, what tipped it over for you, and what were you worried about diving into this kind of work?
I think, well, I know you and I have talked about the money part. You know, that's always the first thing that comes to everyone's head. Oh my God, it's expensive, you know. And it doesn't even have to be, you know, this work. It could be anything, you know, joining a gym. You know, I remember going to Good Life and going, how much, you know, every month, right? So that, after you have that initial reaction, I think for me the biggest thing was wondering if it was going to work, right? Like I actually was like, I don't know anything about this. What is this? And I didn't want it to be, you know, you always have this feeling that this type of stuff is that weird, you know, out there stuff, and
Like,
you know, like, where are we
new
gonna
age.
go with this? Yeah. And honestly, my other fear was that, yes, like, what, whoa, you know. My other fear was that you know, I had a really bad experience with a naturopath once. I remember going to having an initial consult with this naturopath, and after filling about 50 pages of, you know, information, you know, she basically said, I want you to go home and throw everything out of your cupboards. And you know, and I was like, what? And she said, just everything out of your cupboards, and you know, everything you're eating is wrong, and you can't eat this, and you can't eat that, and you can't do this, and don't eat rice, and don't do that. And I remember sitting there going, then what, you know, I mean, okay, you cannot take away my chicken curry. Like, that's just, you know, I'm going to draw the line. I need my chicken curry, right? So, you know, like, everything I did was wrong. And then she's like, I want you to eat this quinoa. And I was like, what is, I don't know what that is. I don't even know where to buy it. Like, I was so overwhelmed. And I remember leaving her office. I never went back. Leaving her office, and I, you know, what did I do? I drove through the McDonald's drive-through, and I got my double cheeseburger that I, you know, loved so much. And it just completely overwhelmed me, and I didn't change anything. So I was afraid that there would be a lot of can'ts. You can't do this and you can't do that and don't do this and don't. So I was afraid of that. I was like, here I am, Krisha's gonna now start,
the no diet.
telling me to, don't do this and you can't eat that. And, so I hate that. So I was afraid of that as well. And then the other thing I was afraid of was, I'm type A, I'm successful. I'm confident. I have my stuff together, and in front of you I would have to show all my weaknesses and talk to you about my vulnerabilities, and that I'm not as awesome as I want everyone to think I am, and that I don't always have my shit together, and so that was very scary for me, that I'd have to go, this really kind of sucks, and I don't really like this, and these are the issues I have, and just opening myself up like that is not something that I do. I hear it from patients, and I'm very like, yes, tell me, please. But to reverse the roles and have me now open up to someone was not something that I just didn't think that I could do it.
Did you feel like it was weak?
Yeah. I felt that it was a total sign of weakness to show people that, or to show you or anybody really, that there are demons inside your head, and you don't have your stuff all perfectly packaged together.
Like what you're presenting out in the world. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I often,
you've got.
Yeah. Like because like every woman that I work with is like this, right? She's very, I like to call it like the Swan Effect, right? Where there's this beautiful swan on the surface, looks like she's got her shit together and everything's cool, and then underneath it's like, and it's either like a fight with food, or a fight with worthiness or something like that, or a fight with stress and overwhelm and anxiety. Like there's some sort of fight going on underneath, but nobody would know. And then, but then the cracks start to kind of show here and there, and you're like, oh crap, ball starts to drop, or something starts to happen. So what was it for you then, with all of those fears that you just mentioned? Because those are fears, and they're real fears.
Yeah.
And I've had a lot of conversations with a lot of women who never stepped over the threshold. They stayed in that fear. And which is rather unfortunate. And I see them like a year later, 2 years later, still struggling. I still see them posting on Facebook that they're on another diet. I still see them posting that they're struggling with their weight, because that's the first thing as we determined, or whatever it is that they're struggling with. And I'm just there going, oh my God, please just come. So for you, what was the thing that pushed it over the edge, where like, despite all those fears, like, was it something internal that you were like, I just can't live like this anymore? Was it something I said? Was it like, what was that made you take that leap of faith? Do you remember?
Yeah, I think there were a couple of things. Number one, I know I was reaching a threshold, and I do believe that for people, everyone has their time, and I think whatever the journey is, I think you need to be ready. And I don't think you'll ever know you're ready, but so there was that. For me, I was reaching that threshold where I was really getting sick and tired of being sick and tired. So that was one thing. And I think the other big moment for me was my daughter, who came up to me once, and she's 11, and she's a figure skater. She's very active, very athletic. And she came up to me, and she was wearing her figure skating pants, they're nice and tight. And she turned and she said, Mom, do I have a tummy? And it was like this tiniest little, I mean, my God, she's like, there's nothing there. There's nothing on her. She's just, and I thought to myself, holy shit. What I'm doing to myself and my feelings and my emotions, am I putting them onto my daughter? And, what's her body image and her self-image going to be if her mom is constantly on her diet, hates the way she looks, feels that she's really fat. You know, my daughter has been at family events where people have said, oh, Ayla, you know, you've gained weight and you should lose weight. And she, you know, I have some family members who are also overweight, and there have been comments made about them, and she's heard it. And so, you know, she said, you know, Mom, do I have a, you know, do I have a tummy in these figure skating pants? And so for me, that was like, oh, okay, no. This is not going to happen with my daughter. And because I know that a large part of my struggles have been, you know, the comments and statements and things that I've seen and heard and learnt from my family. And, you know, and I know that sometimes things are said with the best of intentions, but they hurt you, and they fester, and they stay in your mind, and then you start getting these patterns, and then you go to certain things for comfort. And for me, it was food. You know, food was a source of comfort for me. And because of these comments and things that people said, so I didn't want my daughter to experience that. And so that's, for me, was like, okay, that's it, I'm done. But I had to be at the right space, right? I had to be at that moment. And then when we chatted those couple of times on the phone, that's when I was like, yeah, I think this is it. This is time.
Yeah. I think that is so powerful. And thank you for sharing that, because I know that there's a lot of women who either struggle with what's going on with their children, or they're seeing their parents. So it's one or the other, sometimes both, where they've seen their parent go through. Like for me, that was a big catalyst for me, was witnessing my mom go through a lot of stuff. And then when I became a mom, it was like, oh, I got to get my stuff together here. And like that. So it's either one of those things that can be a real big catalyst. And then what you said too about reaching your own threshold. And for me, I'm just always so concerned. I mean, it's so hard in the health space to sell prevention, as you know, as a health practitioner yourself. I mean, you're always asking your patients to, like, in between sessions, make sure you're stretching and make sure you're doing this and make sure you're doing that. I mean, you've even told me, I'm like, do we do it? No.
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 Yeah,
and that's the prevention, right? Like, that's the prevention. You're just like, listen, I don't want to see you for another 6 months. And in order for that to happen, you got to do these exercises. And, you know, for whatever reason, we just don't. And so it's like, then we're like, oh, I broke my neck. Okay, time to see Ayla, you know? and that's unfortunately what ends up having to happen. And I was talking to, I was actually doing a podcast interview with one of my clients who is also a marketing expert. And for her, it was like a heart attack and her daughter having brain injury before she sat up and took notice of her life. And I'm always over here going, don't wait that long. It's so much harder to come back from disease, right? Than when you're already on that path. But, you know, but we all have that threshold. We all have that point that we need to cross. And you're right. Like, nobody's investing in your health is, for whatever reason, bottom of the barrel until there's a need and a big reason for you to do so. So I get that. And, you know, everything health related seems to be really expensive. Whereas if I was sitting here teaching you how to make more money, you'd be like, oh, here, let me remortgage my house and pay you.
Yeah, that's so true. And, you know, even as you said, like in my world, you know, every day I speak to patients, and, you know, it's the same thing. Like, why didn't you do it? I don't know. I didn't have time.
Yeah.
You know, I had to take little Johnny for basketball, and I had to, you know, and it's just the same, you know, and you know, we just don't. And I think women struggle with it way more. I don't have no data to support that, but I just feel that, you know, I find that men will prioritize themselves quicker, you know, like they will, you know, go to the gym on their way home, or whereas women, it's like, okay, well, no, I can't go to the gym because I've got to get home for Sophia, and and I have to do all these things. Whereas I even find with my husband, it's much easier for him to say, oh, I'm going downstairs, I'm going to be on the elliptical, you know. It's like, why don't I do that? You know? So yeah, it's just about making yourself a priority and thinking that you are a priority, right? So and I think everyone has, it's your journey. It's where are you in your life, and are you ready to make those changes? And unfortunately, sometimes, you're right, it's a heart attack or something awful that makes people go, okay, I'm now going to pay attention.
Or diabetes or something.
That's
what I see a lot of. It's like, oh my gosh, like I'm pre-diabetic. Crap, I got to do something, and that's scary. It's scary when that happens. Or an autoimmune like Hashimoto's or something like that. Those are the cases that I've had with people who waited too long, and it's not that, I mean, it's totally manageable. We manage it and we figure it out and all that kind of stuff. But it's harder once you're at that point, but it's not impossible, but it's definitely harder.
You walk around I think you get used to walking around feeling like crap. I think you get used to that. Oh yeah, this is how I'm supposed to feel, and it's just this is normal, and everyone's feeling like crap, and everyone's coming into the office and going, oh, I'm so tired.
I know.
And everyone's going at 10 o'clock for their coffee, otherwise they're going to pass out. And everyone, so you're surrounded by it. So you think, well, this is normal. I'm supposed to feel like this because everyone else is feeling like it. And let's just survive. And this is normal. Right? Until it's only when you see something different or you start feeling different. That you go, oh, wow, what's this? I didn't know I could feel this way,
And now that you feel this way, and we'll talk about what this is in a second, do you think you'll ever go back to those old habits again?
No, because and as you always say, your work is never done, right? Like this is a constant thing. It's a constant practice. Like I don't think I can just go, okay, thank you, I did my work, I'm done now, I just carry on. You're always having to be mindful and think about how you're thinking and what you're doing. So I don't think so, because when I do of course there are moments when I have a trigger, or I think of something, or I'm driving around going, I really want that double cheeseburger, but now I have the tools. I stop and I go, why do you want the cheeseburger? What's really going on? What are you thinking? Okay, do we need a little timeout? Do we need to step back and, rethink this through? Okay, so what was it that they said that pissed you off? And let's so I have these internal dialogues now, and these questions and these strategies, which I use when that moment happens. Mm-hmm. And it will happen because you're a human being and you have life. And sometimes you'll go, you know what? I'm going to have a Baskin-Robbins ice cream cone with my kids today. And I don't beat myself up anymore about it. I go, okay, next, carry on. And then I think about the next thing. In the past, I'd go, it was really good, but why did I eat it? And it was so bad. And I wonder how many calories it is. And now, okay, I'll do 5 minutes extra on the elliptical. Oh, but I don't really want to go on the elliptical. These awful things. Like you just go into this horrible spiral. You just keep churning and churning. Whereas now the thoughts will come because they can. You're human, and they'll come. And then you go, okay, let's break this down. Let's think through this. So I do a lot of that, and I'm okay with taking a step back and just stopping. I find, especially women like us, I think sometimes we go, and we're used to that. And I'm okay with now taking a step back and saying, no, I'm just going to relax today. I'm going to read a nice book. I'm going to take a hot shower and just sit with some tea. And I'm not going to check my email because everything can wait. It doesn't end. It's amazing. Nobody.
And
it continues. How does that happen?
Exactly. And you're more productive you're getting more done. Like, I think this is the thing, like
right.
type A, high performing women, like, it's like, if I take a break, then that means business stops, but it's not true at all.
Yes.
It's like, if I take a break, business gets better. I make more money. I get more clients, or whatever it is. Like, and it's a hard kind of paradigm, because like you said, there is this social this collective consciousness, right? So all these people that are around the office who are like, you know, tired and exhausted and all that kind of stuff, they also have the same mentality around, like, you got to work hard, you got to strive, and taking a break is almost weak, or it means like a lack of results or whatever, when meanwhile us over here, the 1%, we know that the opposite is true.
Absolutely. And herd mentality, right? You just get into that. Well, everyone's doing it, so I'm going to be the same, right? So
I love this. So you were saying something before we started recording this about thinking differently, and I thought this was brilliant. So talk us through this. What does thinking differently look like for you now?
So you know, I've lost 18 pounds on our journey here. Well, on my journey. And people have been coming up to me and saying, oh, you look great. Like, what's going on? You look different. Like, what's going on? And I'll, you know, in the past, I would say, yes, I've lost 10 pounds, or I've lost 15 pounds. I'm doing South Beach or Weight Watch or whatever it is. And look at how much weight I've lost. And it's not about the weight. Yeah, exactly. But it's not about the weight anymore for me. So now when people come up to me and they say, you look great, like, what's going on? I say, oh yeah, I think different. And they'll go, there's this weird, like, what? And I go, yeah, I just think different now. And they usually go, what does that, what? And then, you know, if they care to listen, I'll say, yeah, I think differently now. I show up differently. You're seeing the real me. You know, I'm happier, I'm present, and I'm here, it's me. So I think differently now. And they go, oh, okay. You know, it's a very weird, they don't quite know how to handle it, but that's the truth. Because I think differently when I show up somewhere. I'm very mindful of me and what I'm bringing to the table, who I am. I'm more mindful when I eat. I'm more mindful about my body. And it's a whole different way of thinking. I have prioritized myself. I'm proud of my accomplishments. You know, it was very hard for me. I remember one whole session where the exercise you gave me was to go around. Was really hard for me, but was to go around really, you know, going, look how fantastic I am, and look at what I did today, and isn't this great, and how awesome. It was the worst day after that for me to try and do that, because I was always so not wanting to say, you know, things about, you know, about what I've done and stuff. And but I'm okay with that now. I know I've accomplished a lot and I'm very proud of it. And it would have been very difficult for me to say something like that before we started our work. So yeah, I approach, I would say, life differently. I approach the other people in my life differently as well. I think I show up differently. I command a different level of respect now, you know, because there were a lot of triggers for me with my family. And again, I'm not saying that they would do it intentionally to be mean. You know, it's just how they were and what they knew. And so now I'm okay to say, I would appreciate if you don't speak that way with me again. Like, it's a very clear, defined boundary now that I've set. And it's been quite, you know, and I might not say those words, but they are aware, like they get that feeling that, well, Ayla thinks differently.
Yeah. You know? And I think the key to what you've just said there is that you don't tolerate yourself talking like that to you anymore. So you're not going to tolerate other people. Whereas before, you were saying all that stuff. And like you said at the beginning, they were just reiterating what was in your head. So you were in agreement with it. It's like, yeah, I do need to go on a diet. Yeah, I am overweight. Yeah, that is true. And now you're like, no. that's not how I feel about myself anymore. And so you can't say that. Don't talk crap about me. Whereas before they were just repeating what you were saying in your head. So it was like, yeah, this is all true. I am a piece of crap. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, that's very, very true. Very true. And I think the work we did, you know, because you're right. We did not really talk about the food until towards the end.
Yeah.
So the first months, like that entire summer, was spent just working through all of this baggage that I feel that we all carry around, you know, all the way down to, you know, memories from when I was 10 and 11 and, you know, and you think, my God, you know, I'm 45 and I'm still thinking about that stuff that happened all those years ago. But it does, it stays with you, it festers, and you have to figure, you know, you have to work through it, forgive yourself, and start, you know. It's not easy. I'm not going to say that our journey was easy. For me, it wasn't easy, but it was so worth it. It's been absolutely, yeah, it's great. And recognizing also that it's not like it's just going to stop now, that you have to continue. The work has to keep happening. And the other big thing for me was you allowed me to you said that it's okay if you know, have a ice cream cone or have a, you know, like you gave me permission to be okay with failing a little bit once in a while. I mean, we're human beings, and when you fail, you learn from that, and you go on to the next thing. And that was very powerful for me as well. In the past, I would feel so guilty, right? Like you failed, and it's not. Whereas you said, oh, it's okay, next. You know, learn from, what did you learn from it? What did you get from it? What you know, and move forward. That was very powerful as well.
Yeah, exactly. Because then it gave you those tools in your toolbox to be able to ask yourself those questions, right? So it's like, okay, so you went through the McDonald's drive-through, so you went through the Tim Hortons. Okay, so what triggered that? What happened? What did that? And so asking those questions gave you those tools to now ask yourself those questions, so you can slow it down and not be so hyper triggered anymore. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So any parting thoughts for, you know, say it's your best friend or a woman who's maybe struggling with all or some or most or even her own things right now. And she's listening to this and she's like, yeah, but it's probably not going to work for me because, you know, I have different issues, or I have 7 kids instead of 3, or, you know, or whatever. Like my life is even busier, or I have way too many doubts, or my genes are genes as in genetics, family genes, or, you know, whatever she might be thinking right now that is like, you know, I can't, this is nice for Ayla, but it's not going to work for me. What would you say to a woman like that about this kind of experience, even whether it's the one-on-one or my Delicious Life Movement program, which is the smaller program? What would you say to her?
I would say to her that at some point you're going to get sick and tired of the excuses, because everything you just said was an excuse. Right. And yeah, right. They're all just excuses for you not to face your truth. And you know, if you're not living your truth, you are miserable and you're not living your best life. And you know, if you want to be miserable and carry on, then carry on. Then it means you're not ready, right? Yeah. But recognize that you're not living your best life. And if you want to, you have to make some hard decisions, and you have to get rid of the excuses, because they're all just excuses. And I would tell them to think long and hard about where they want to be and what they want to do. And, you know, is it easy? No, it sucks. It's very, very hard, but it's worth it. And, you know, I just think about all the other things that we do in our lives. I mean, was it easy for me to become a chiropractor? No, it sucked. It was 4 years of school. It was insane. It was intense. It was awful. It was exams. Did I do it? Yes. Was it amazing? Yes. You know, is it easy to work in a high-powered position? No, it's not easy when to go to work and to fulfill your goals and objectives and run a business and make money and support your family. But do you do it? You do it, right? So I don't know why this is so hard for people, because this is really probably the most important work, which is you, because none of the other stuff will happen if you're not around. So I know for me, the big catalyst was my daughter. At some point, I hope people think that they're worth it and they take the plunge.
Yeah. Oh, that's brilliant. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
That
Well,
was
thank
really powerful.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're welcome.
Because it is that, right? Are you worth it? And I mean, there's a whole ad campaign on that,
yeah,
right?
I
Because
was just
I'm
thinking
worth
that.
it. I can't remember what I don't know who did that, right? But yeah, you have to get to that point for yourself.
Yeah, and it's
Do it for
literally
yourself.
just taking that leap. Like I remember when I first started this journey myself, it was terrifying. Like I was presented with a coach and her fee was astronomical. It was ridiculously expensive for where I was at and financially, and I'd never hired a coach at that level before, and I was like, oh my gosh. And I went through all of this. I was like, no, it's too expensive. No, I'll just figure this out. I'll just get another book. I'll just like do this. I'll just do that. And then when I found myself like at that point where it was like, oh my God, I can't. And I thought, what kind of woman steps up and invests in herself at this level? That's who I want to be. I don't want to be this miserable pile of poo sitting on the sofa complaining about life all the time. No, I want to be an empowered, strong, confident woman who has like a really successful business, who, you know, is changing the world and who's a great mom, but without the pressures of being perfect and all that kind of stuff. But I don't know how to get from the sofa, Krisha, to the global, you know, amazing business owner, Krisha. Like, how do I bridge that gap? And this woman was it. And I was resisting it. I was like, no. And then finally I was like, okay, I have to do this, because this is how I see myself, like opening the door and walking across that bridge so that I can get there. And like you said, it's a journey, you know, every day. I'm personally working on myself with my new coaches so that I can help you guys as my clients be better people, and everybody gets brought up and developed in that kind of way. And oh my gosh, I love everything that you've shared here today. And I hope anybody watching, if any of this has resonated with you, please like take a moment and let it sink in and really think about where you want your life to be in 6 months from now, because it's possible. You can change it all.
Absolutely, you can absolutely.
Yeah.
And I you know, if it's really interesting, because you know, if you had a really bad back, you'd see the chiropractor. If you have toothache, you'd go to the dentist. If you are having financial issues, you'd go to a financial planner. They're experts, right? So if you want to fix your life, you see Krisha. You know, she's the expert.
Yeah.
Right?
And I love
so,
what I do.
You know, I mean, yeah. And, you know, we're okay. We're very quick to, you know, oh, my back hurts, I'm going to go see the doctor, you know, or I'm going to, you know, this is wrong. So here's the expert to it. Now, my car's not working there. You know, I'm going to go to my car guy. But when, you know, when it's your life, you need some help, there are experts who can help you with it. And so I don't think there's anything strange or weird about it. You're just helping get your life back on track and prioritizing yourself. And how important is that? It's like the most important thing you can do.
It's the most important.
So, and you're the expert, and you help and you guide and you learn, and that's it. You change, right? So Krisha Young, the life expert.
That'll be my new title. Delicious life expert.
Yes. Yes. Exactly.
Amazing. All right, awesome. Thank you so much. I so thoroughly enjoyed working with you, and I know we're continuing, and you're still my chiropractor too, so it's all good there. But I really want to honor and thank you for being vulnerable. and stepping up and being the leader, because you are a leader in your space, and there's a lot of women who need women like you out there who are sharing your story and saying, look, like, I did struggle with these things, but this is what I did about it. Right? Because you're not just sitting in the crap anymore on the sofa, like what I was saying before, like, it's not just complain. You're like, no, I want to be a leader. I am a leader, and this is how I'm going to show up in the world. And this is what I'm going to do in order to get there. Right. And I think it's empowering, and it might feel a little bit embarrassing or, shameful or whatever to expose some, quote unquote, dirty secrets. However, this is what a true leader does. And a true leader shows up and says, you know what? These were the problems that I had. This is what I did to solve it. And, now I can show up in a much better, cleaner, fresher, happier, calmer, more contented way. And you're like the catalyst for everybody else around you, And that's what I love the most about this work, is that it's not just your life that we've saved your daughter's life.
Right.
And then she might save the lives of some of her little girlfriends too. When they're like, oh, do I have a pouch? Your daughter will be like, love your body the way it is.
It is. Yeah, exactly.
Or whatever.
Yeah.
Dieting is for fools.
Yeah.
However, 11-year-olds talk. I don't know. They probably just text it to each other.
Probably with emojis.
Yeah.
It'll be an emoji. No dieting emoji.
No, dieting is like in the poo.
Yeah. Exactly. But it's been an absolute pleasure, and it's very difficult to put into words all the stuff that happens and how you transform. It's very difficult. A lot of it is feelings and emotions and stuff. So, but you've been fantastic to work with, and I never felt judged or small or felt like, I can't do this or I can't say this to her. You always created such a safe space, and I think that's why you're as good as you are at what you do, is you allow people to be their most vulnerable without any judgment. And I think that's very, very powerful. So great job. Good work.
Thank you. Yeah, you guys have no idea that I'm secretly bashing you in the background, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Dash away.
Yeah, just kidding. Just kidding.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's because it's important. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to open up. I mean, the first few conversations we had, I was still, but you worked really hard on making sure that it was okay for me to share and to tell you things about my family and what's happening, and that's not easy, right? So that safe space is really important, and you do a great job at creating it so people can open up and heal and learn. So yeah. Well, welcome.
Thank you. All right. Awesome. Thank you so much again. I really appreciate you, like I said, being vulnerable and sharing what you've had to share. And I think, you really are a whole new human being. You look amazing. Like, your skin is glowing. We were joking about that in the beginning. You're like, I'm not pregnant.
Yeah, no.
You're lighter in so many ways, like energetically and all of that. And so, there's been an 18-pound weight loss. That's fantastic. But more what I feel is this energetic weightlifting of like, you're happier and definitely there's been a big adjustment not adjustment, that's the wrong word, but a big shift in energy that's palpable now. It's palpable. And that woman that you feel inside is finally out there for the world
coming.
To see.
Yes, she's coming out finally. And and I think the way to sum it up is I've changed my story, and yeah, this is my next chapter, and I'm ready. I'm
Good.
ready. So I'm
Yes.
excited.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see what's up next for you. All right.
Yes.
All right. All right. Let's close
All
this
right.
off. So thank you everybody for watching this. If you have any questions and you want to reach out to me, you can send me an email at krisha@krishayoung.com, or you can go over to my website, krishayoung.com. You can find me on Facebook, Krisha Young, KRISHAYOUNG. And I offer complimentary introductory sessions. So if this is something that you're curious about, please don't hesitate to reach out. We can hop on a call. I promise I won't bite, and just talk and see where you're at, and if we're a good fit for each other. I have lots of different levels of programs depending on your budget or whatever level you're at. There is something here to help support you. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you, Ayla, for being here. I really, really appreciate it.